there, it's Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today we are going to bulk make some Christmas cards. We're going to end up making 8 cards, and we're going to be using this gorgeous Spellbinders Snowflake die set and some watercolour paints, and it's just one of those cards that is going to look really great in my opinion, but it's actually really simple to do. So we're starting off with some card layers that fit onto A6 cards, so it's about 1/4 of an inch down from A6 cards. So I've got 8 of those, so you need to cut those to size if you haven't got something already. I, as you may know if you've watched me before, have those already pre-done. And then I'm making a very watery watercolor paint using that lovely blue, and I'm just literally scribbling it onto the card. It doesn't really matter how it looks. You notice I started in the middle and then worked my way up and then went back and worked my way down. So here we go again with some wet paint, working my way up, another dip into the wet paint, start at the middle again and then working my way down. And you really, it just needs to be kind of scruffy really. I wanted the effect to be that it was very slightly darker in the middle and then just kind of scrawling away top and bottom. And basically I just then went ahead and did all 8, put them to one side to dry. While they're drying, I'm taking the A6 white cards which are pre-scored, and I am just folding and creasing those at the score line to create my card bases. And again, with bulk you want to do kind of one job in one go because it tends to work quicker that way. So I'm going to complete all of these scoring, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. Now the reason I chose 8 was because with A6 cards, obviously when I cut my layers I can get 4 pieces per A4 sheet of card, so it's just more efficient that way. Now obviously my layers are very slightly smaller than A6, so I'm cutting it and then just cutting a little bit off the edge, and then I'm going to cut it to size here. So it's just matting between the A6 card and the mat, so it just creates like this lovely shimmery border between that white card base and the card layer, and I'm cutting 8 of those. I'm then going to get this gorgeous dusty blue cardstock from Creative Expressions. It's actually called Dust Blue, and I'm also going to cut 8 layers from that as well, and that's going to be used on the inside of the card. The reason I picked that colour was it went really well with the paint, but you know, whatever colours you're using, go ahead. And then I'm getting a Christmas stamp set. Any one you've got will do. This is just one that I had and I thought this was great. I like putting sentiments on the inside of a card. I always think that when you're doing Christmas cards you've got a ton to do, and it makes it so much easier if the message is already printed and all you have to do is kind of sign your name. So for this I thought it would be nice to keep in with the blue theme. I found this lovely blue from Altenew, which went really well again, and so I used that on the inside there. And again, because I'm using the stamp platform, I can keep repeating this really easily. But even if you're not got a stamp platform, just keep doing all your stamping this bit first and then go on to the next one. But with the stamp platform, obviously because I've positioned it, I don't have to worry about making sure it's in the right place all the time, because as long as I put that piece of card into the corner, I know it's going to stamp correctly. And again, I do all 8 and then we move on to the next bit, and there they are all done, and I think they just look really, really great. I like that message as well, just that slightly longer message just looks really nice. Now for this one is the outside. These have all dried now, and I want to put a little Let It Snow on the outside. Now it's going in that bottom left corner, but if I'd put the stamp in the bottom left corner of my stamp platform, it's where that little magnet is on the bottom there. I tend to find that sometimes with stamp platforms that corner doesn't always stamp so well, just because you can't quite get the pressure as good. So I twisted it around and put it up. Now you saw I turned it around just so I can make sure visually it was in the right place, and then I spun it back around again. And again, I'm using that Altenew blue ink and you can see here how it goes really nicely. And I deliberately went for one that was just a little darker than the background but was of the same tones, and you can see actually when I put my hand there, you can see the kind of painting a lot better, but it just blends all in really nicely, I think, having that blue there. And that's all 8 done. So then I've got another holographic cardstock, which is actually got a embossing pattern on it, which I didn't particularly realise at the time, but I just like the pattern. It didn't really make a difference to the die cutting. What does make a difference is any kind of mirror card like this, any kind of holographic card like this, has a coating to it. So when you die cut, especially something quite detailed like these snowflakes, you're gonna have to run it through a few times, because it's just, you need that to be sure that it was really going to cut through that coating. So what I did, you see, I'll run it back and forward. You can see I'm not going all the way. I don't need to go all the way. This is half of an A4, and basically I get 4 on this one, because I'll do 2 here like this, and then I'll switch it around. So I'll put the big snowflake under the little snowflake's hole, obviously once it's die cut, and carry on flipping them around all the way down. And it meant I could get 4 out of this piece, or 4 sets I should say, and then the second half I could do the same. So one sheet of card actually got me all that I need. So it's really quite efficient actually on your cardstock. So that's those 2. You can just see how gorgeous they look with that holographic card, but even a plain silver mirror card would look great. I just wanted to really just bring some shimmer to it, and even a nice sparkle card would look really, really good. So what I've done here now is I've put all the pieces together, you know, with like all the layers with the right things, so I know exactly where I am. So here's one for an example for you. So we've got the inside with its inner layer, and then the 2 layers for the front, and I'm going to start putting these together. Now you've got a choice with these. Quite often with bulk make I would do all the insides and then do the outside layers afterwards, one at a time, you know, the first outside layer, then the next outside layer. However, because I'd sorted it out and I didn't want to get confused with what I was doing, I literally thought, well, it really doesn't matter, they're all layers, so let's just stick them all down as we go. I mean, we're just going to be gluing. So basically I'm just using my tape pen, and I'm just going around all 4 edges and a little bit down the middle. It's strong enough, they're not like super heavy card, it's just normal weight, so that will be plenty strong enough. And then I did both layers on this one with the adhesive, and then I'm just sticking that down. The only disadvantage obviously of using a dry glue in inverted commas is you need to get it right, because if you put it down and then it's slightly off, with the tape pens you have a little bit of time to lift it, but not a lot. If you just put it down lightly, you can usually just pull it up before it sticks completely, just in case you get it wrong. But you can see here where it just went down pretty quick, and you can see what I mean about that silver layer or that holographic layer just going through. And there's all 8 done, and I think they look really, really great, and I think they're turning out really well. And I think what's happening is that holographic, or if you use silver or glitter, whatever, if you match it to your snowflakes, it's going to work really nicely. So the next thing I wanted to do was just bend my snowflakes. So basically I literally bent them all in one go, and then I did the cards, but I'm just showing you one on this one, because I don't think you need to see me bend sort of 8 sets times 2 sets of snowflakes being bent. You know what that looks like. So I bent them all up just very slightly. Now I do appreciate, without anything under those little bends, there's a good chance that when they go in the envelope and get posted, they might get flattened, but I would hope is that it wouldn't get totally flattened. And so all I'm doing is I'm just putting some wet adhesive in the center there. The reason I use the wet adhesive is it's very strong, and it just really will hold it down. You want something strong because you're only putting adhesive in the center, so you really want it to grip. The reason that pulled up there was because with this coated cardstock, what I noticed was when I die cut it, there was like sort of almost looked like hairs, but it was actually the surface of the coating. There was bits that you needed to pull off, and there was one there that I hadn't actually completed, so I had missed it out. So those were all complete. You saw all 8 sets stuck down, and then I felt like the final touch would be just a little bit of shimmer using some sequins, but you don't have to add this if you're doing more than 8. you know, if you're doing a load, you might think, well, I'll mix this step because this takes a bit more time, and they look perfectly great without it. It's just that because I knew I was just doing the 8, and I just thought, yeah, it just will add a little something. I think it just adds a nice finishing touch, and if you can be bothered, I think it's kind of nice to do. But you could use some little self-adhesive gems, which would make it a lot quicker, because you could just literally pop them down, and that would be a lot more speedy than obviously using the sequins, which you have to pick up and, you know, and put the adhesive underneath. Now on this particular first one, I would say I wasn't putting enough adhesive on. I feel like later I really felt like it needed a little bit more of a puddle. I forgot really that this adhesive will dry completely clear, and you want to be sure that these will stay stuck. And if you only put a small amount on, yes, it seems okay at the moment, but actually later on when they dry, it's just not enough. These are quite big sequins, and it's just not enough to take the weight of them, and they tend to come off. So I did go back and correct this one, but the others I did a little bit more, almost like a puddle that they kind of sat in, and then as it slightly dried, I just pushed them down. Literally by the time I did the sort of last one, the first one was ready for me just to give it a little push. It was still slightly tacky, and it therefore wasn't sort of squelching out everywhere, but it was just sticking that sequin into that sort of glue, and much more stuck down than what I had here. But that's that one finished, and you can see the idea. What I did, you can see they're very slightly different, the sequins here. It's just where the blue was, I wanted to make sure that the blue sequins were on the white card as best as possible, and that clear sequin was over the blue part. So sometimes that altered where I positioned those colours, just because obviously where I scribbled that watercolor paint affected where those would go. But that's it, those all done, and I think they look really good. I think they are pretty simple, pretty quick. You can see that you almost can't go wrong with that watercoloring. You literally just slop it on and it will look fine. Quite often, I have to say, there was a couple even on that I thought, oh, I'm going to chuck those away, they don't look right. But actually once it dried and you put the snowflakes on top, it looked absolutely fine, and I think it came out really well. So I hope you liked it. I hope that you enjoyed making these cards with me, and I will see you again next time. Oh, and don't forget, do hop on over to the blog post to see photographs of the finished cards, because I do appreciate on the camera it's not as easy to see some of the watercolour, etc. So definitely go on over to that blog post to take a look at that. Plus, of course, as always, I have links to the products that I use for you. Okay, so thanks so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now. Bye.